Kurenai Yuhi was treated unfairly in the Naruto series. If you take a look at the 4 major Jonin senseis of the Leaf Village, Kakashi, Might, Guy, Asuma, and Kurenai, she was definitely the one who got the least to do in the entire series. Kakashi was literally one of the main characters. He had an extensive backstory with a flashback included in it. He had extensive character development, and his relationship with Obito was one of the cornerstones of late Naruto. Guy got a decent amount of screen time, and one of the most cathartic fights against Ten-Tails Madara Uchiha in the middle of the war arc, going through a formidable character arc in that fight as well. Asuma didn't get a lot to do in Naruto Part 1, but there was an entire arc surrounding his character in Naruto Shippuden, the Akatsuki Suppression arc. Yes, he dies in that arc, but he fulfills his own character arc extremely well there, and his death serves to motivate other characters and also develop them, like Shikamaru. Kurenai, though, she gets pregnant? And by no means I'm saying this is a bad thing, no, it's great. Getting pregnant is also a good thing for her character, especially because it relates to Asuma as well, to his death, and the theme of protecting the king, which was the main focus of the Akatsuki Suppression arc. The king being the next generation, which was very cleverly represented by the game of shogi as Shikamaru plays during the arc, both with Asuma and with his dad. Having this new child, this new king that they have to protect now, is a great representation of what the characters are fighting for in that particular arc, fending off the Akatsuki and protecting their village and their young. But that's the last we see of Kurenai pretty much. We check in back with her just before the pain arc starts, and we see that she is almost delivering the baby, because her belly is massive, and there's that horrible joke of Naruto saying she ate an entire watermelon because of the way she looks. Like, Naruto, yeah, she's pregnant. Why would you assume that? I know it's one of those dumb shonen jokes, but it makes Naruto feel way too dumb. Oh, but Naruto doesn't understand love. Yeah, he does. He liked Sakura. And Naruto, at that point, at 16 years old, definitely knows what pregnancy is. So that joke just feels completely off. Anyways, we pretty much don't see Kurenai after that at all. But now let's go back and see what Kurenai has actually done and if her character had any development whatsoever before she disappeared from the Naruto series. Well, starting off in Naruto Part 1, we find out Kurenai is the sensei of Shino, Hinata, and Kiba. And we also find out that she is a pretty young Jonin. Not in terms of her age because she's around the same age as Kakashi and Asuma, but a young Jonin in the sense that she has become a Jonin quite recently. Kakashi mentions that in passing when they are talking about Ibiki and Kurenai didn't know who the guy was, and then Kakashi's like, oh yeah, I forgot you're a pretty young Jonin, otherwise you would know who Ibiki Morino is. Which means that, yeah, obviously because she's a much more recent Jonin, she's not gonna be as strong as Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy, who have been Jonins for a much longer time, especially Kakashi, who's been a Jonin since he was 13 years old. And this could actually be an interesting contrast. It could be a good thing for us to see the difference between a Jonin that was recently promoted to a Jonin that has been a Jonin for a long time and has much more experience going through very difficult missions like S-rank missions, which only Jonins go through. I'm not saying there should be an entire arc surrounding Kurenai and making her the main character for that arc, but it could be interesting to see how a fresh Jonin would react to their first S-rank mission, especially if that mission involves something that's dubious, and contrast that with a Jonin that has been a Jonin for a long time. And this would be a good reason to make Kurenai a newer Jonin and to point that out specifically. Otherwise, there's no need for you to really point that out in the story, right? I mean, I guess it's a curiosity that Kurenai has been a Jonin for a short period of time, but it doesn't really have any particular effect in the story itself. Regardless of that, it's clear that Kurenai cares deeply about her students, Hinata, Shino, and Kiba. She puts a lot of stack on Shino, something that most people don't because of the way he looks and because of his powers, and she also believes Hinata has a lot more potential than people think. We can see how displeased she was when she realized the situation Hinata was in, with Hiyashi, Hinata's dad, training Hanabi, which is Hinata's sister, a much younger sister, to be the heir of the Hyuga clan, putting much more stock into Hanabi than Hinata and kind of ignoring Hinata completely. She understood the situation Hinata was in, especially when she was fighting Neji, a much more talented member of her own clan, but from an inferior branch. Then again, it's not as if Kurenai is doing anything to change that. Yeah, she feels bad about Hinata and she comforts her, but she doesn't go through any character development herself through Hinata in that point of the story. She never stands up to Hiashi, she never really say anything to Neji, who was being very mean to Hinata for no reason apart from, the entire hatred between the branch and main families. Which, yeah, it may be justified because of Neji's situation, but Kurenai, as the adult, could have given Neji another perspective there. But obviously, she couldn't really do that because Naruto had to be the one to talk no jutsu Neji in this situation. And yeah, Kurenai was one of the ninjas that stopped Neji from killing Hinata in the preliminaries of the Chunin exams, which is a good thing. And unfortunately, she doesn't get to do a whole lot more than that in the Chunin exams themselves. We know she was in the arena when Orochimaru attacked the Leaf Village, and she broke out of Kabuto's genjutsu there among the other Jonins that were present. And she also fought alongside the other Jonins against the Sound Ninjas that were invading there. But we really don't see her doing anything. I mean, in the manga, we barely see Kakashi and Guy doing anything. They kill a couple of Sound Ninjas, but that's it. Kurenai is just there staring at the arena after the fighting is pretty much done, alongside Kakashi, Guy, and other Jonins and special Jonins. But we don't get any development for her whatsoever, which is actually not true about the other senseis. Yes, obviously the senseis are not the focus in that part of the Chunin exams. They're there mostly to help out the kid characters and also to display the Leaf Village strength fighting off the invasion. Kakashi kills a couple of guys, gives Sakura the mission to go after Naruto. Guy's there as well, helping them out. And obviously Guy and Kakashi were more useful to deliver exposition before, when the fights were actually happening in the arena for the Chunin exams. And for example, when Sasuke used Chidori for the first time, there was Guy explaining what Chidori did and how Kakashi developed that. The Kurenai, she actually doesn't do a whole lot. Even Asuma gets a lot more to do in the Chunin exams because he's actually the one who rescues Shikamaru from certain death after Shikamaru stops that squadron of Sound Ninjas. But I mean, that's not that big of an issue, is it? It's just that there were a lot of things going on at the same time in the Chunin exams, and you couldn't give every single character a major moment. And theoretically, it's not a bad thing either because she is gonna be featured much more heavily in the next arc, in the Search for Tsunade arc, specifically in the beginning of that arc, which starts off with foreshadowing for the future relationship between Kurenai and Asuma. Kakashi sees them both together and is like, "Oh, are you guys dating?" And then they kind of blush and they say, "No, we're not." And then Kakashi sends Kurenai and Asuma to take care of Itachi and Kisame. Well, Kakashi didn't know that they were Itachi and Kisame at that point. He just thought those dudes in cloaks looked very dodgy and thought it would be a good idea for them to be intercepted and questioned. So he sends Asuma and Kurenai, which are obviously outmatched. Because yeah, I mean, Kurenai and Asuma versus Kisame and Itachi. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. It's even more ridiculous when Asuma was like, "I'm gonna wipe the floor with both of you guys." Like, Asuma knew about Itachi's capabilities and what he did in the Leaf Village. He shouldn't be saying that because he was obviously not gonna do that. What about Kurenai? Well, Kurenai was there and she exchanged some lines with Kisame and Itachi. And this is a good opportunity for you to show the difference between a new Jonin to an older Jonin, like Asuma and Kurenai. Asuma has been a Jonin for longer. So Kurenai should probably underperform in this fight, which is what happens. Then again, Asuma also kind of underperforms, but not as much as Kurenai. Still, picking this fight to showcase the difference between a new Jonin to an older Jonin is kind of unfair because they're fighting against Itachi Uchiha, which is gonna absolutely stomp pretty much any Jonin they throw against him in the Naruto universe. Because yeah, Asuma is getting pressured by Kisame, who's not even fighting very seriously, but Kurenai gets genjutsu reversed by Itachi in a very humiliating way and then kicked into the water. It's not a great look for her, especially because she's a genjutsu specialist and Itachi casually counters her genjutsu with his own. Obviously this was done to show how much more powerful Itachi was than the average Jonin ninja. "Oh, you're a Jonin genjutsu specialist? Let me out genjutsu you as if I'm just walking in the park?" Itachi was supposed to feel like he was beyond their reach, and yeah, this was intentional. And it makes complete sense for Itachi to stomp Kurenai and Asuma if he had to fight against Asuma, but it was Kisame doing that. The thing is, it makes Kurenai look very, very bad. The Naruto fandom gives Kurenai a lot of flack for using genjutsu against Itachi Uchiha, the genjutsu master of the Naruto series. Something Kurenai should know about because Itachi used to be a ninja of the Leaf Village and an Uchiha with the Sharingan, who are famous for using extremely powerful ocular genjutsu. However, think about this. From Kurenai's perspective here, she is a genjutsu specialist. What is she supposed to do here? Not use her specialty and toss rocks at Itachi or something? That probably wouldn't work either. So people make the joke that, oh, Kurenai used genjutsu on Itachi, what's her next move? She's going to drown Kisame or something? That was her speciality. It just so happens she was fighting against the worst possible match for her. Then again, there was another way for them to go about this fight, which would be for Kurenai to cast genjutsu on Kisame and let Asuma engage Itachi in close quarters. Which, don't get me wrong, it wouldn't work, but the genjutsu would definitely have been much more effective against Kisame than Itachi, and at least make Itachi break Kisame out of the genjutsu if he's unable to do that, which would make them a little more vulnerable to Asuma's attacks there. It wouldn't work as I said, but still, it would have been a better strategy for their situation. Also, when Kurenai cast the genjutsu, Kisame was the one attacking Asuma and the one putting pressure on them. Itachi just stood behind and he was doing nothing. He was just like watching, and Kurenai decided to use the genjutsu on him. And yeah, he just genjutsu reversed her. But if she had used the genjutsu on Kisame, she could have stopped Kisame from attacking Asuma, giving Asuma a window of opportunity, even if a very small one. And yeah, overall, because of her target, Kurenai just looks completely incompetent in this fight. Her genjutsu is countered easily, she gets kicked into the water, and then Itachi just kind of appears above her as Kurenai is crouching on the water. It's horrible. Kakashi has to arrive and save both Kurenai and Asuma, who was getting beaten by Kisame at that point. And yeah, Kakashi doesn't fare much better against Itachi. Guy has to arrive and save them from Kisame afterwards, but at least Itachi had to try a little bit harder against Kakashi. So yeah, we could see that Kurenai was below the other Jonins in this fight by the way she performed, but that makes people think Kurenai is completely useless and fodder, but people don't remember that she is literally a Jonin. And a lot of people tend to underestimate what the rank of Jonin means. It's an elite ninja. It means that that person has elite level capabilities in every aspect of the shinobi art. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, hand signs, chakra control, intelligence, all the stats in the data book that you can see there, they are all elite level for Jonins, meaning that Kurenai also had those stats in a pretty good level. Yes, genjutsu was her speciality, but her taijutsu, for example, had to be good. Now, there are a few exceptions to that rule, like Might Guy himself. He's not great at ninjutsu, genjutsu, but he is a Jonin because his taijutsu is so good that it wouldn't really make sense for you to keep him at a Chunin level. And also, Guy had some ninjutsu capability, like summoning the turtle, for example. He was pretty strategic and smart as well, obviously not as smart as someone like Kakashi, for example, but still, he could lead his team. And because Kurenai's genjutsu is definitely not at the level of Might Guy's taijutsu, for example, she hasn't become a Jonin simply because her genjutsu is that more powerful than anybody else's, which means that her other abilities had to be pretty good as well. But it simply doesn't feel that way because she fights against Itachi and is destroyed with her speciality, and Itachi makes her look like a joke, which he also makes Kakashi look like a joke in that fight, but we know Kakashi is strong because we saw a lot of Kakashi before. We learned to respect Kakashi and his abilities and like the character, but this is the very first time we're seeing Kurenai fighting. It's her introduction. Imagine if Kakashi's introduction was him getting completely destroyed by Zabuza. Like, yeah, Zabuza versus Kakashi was a pretty difficult fight. Team 7 had to help Kakashi get out of the water prison, for example, but Kakashi still felt very powerful in that fight. Kurenai just feels pathetic here, which is a problem. Then again, this fight is supposed to elevate Itachi more than anything else, so it makes some sense for Kurenai to get completely destroyed in her first fight if she's gonna fight against Itachi. That's fine. The problem is, Kurenai literally does not have another fight in this series. If Kurenai had other fights against some better opponents for her, not easy opponents, but opponents that will make the match a more equal battle, we could actually see how powerful Kurenai truly is. Even in Naruto Shippuden, Guy gets a lot of stuff to do, Asuma gets a whole arc surrounding him, and Kurenai, she doesn't get anything to do, so among the Jonin teachers of the Leaf Village, she's the one who gets nothing. She only gets pregnant, and that's fine, as I said. Then again, what is done with her pregnancy isn't even that satisfactory. We see Kurenai's very pregnant belly when Naruto makes that bad joke, and then she disappears, and only appears again in chapter 700 with Mirai already a teenager. She misses the war arc, which is this arc where pretty much every single ninja we know of that's alive is gonna fight for the shinobi world, and she's not there. The excuse? She is pregnant, or she was pregnant. Now, the obvious thing here is for Kurenai to go into the war, and a lot of people say no, she shouldn't have gone into the war because she was just a mom. She had to take care of her child. Which, yeah, this is a very reasonable stance if the world wasn't at stake. You know, if the Alliance loses the war, having a child wouldn't really matter at all. So Kurenai should have gone into the fighting, and then we could get some development for her. Now, also, we never see her delivering the baby, we never see the baby itself with Kurenai, we never get any of those moments, which is just a wasted opportunity because obviously when you get a pregnant character, you have to kind of pay that off with the character delivering the baby. I mean, you don't have to literally watch her delivering the baby, even though the only other character we saw pregnant in the series we literally watch her giving birth, which is Shino, but we don't even see Mirai as a baby. We don't get a scene of Kurenai choosing the baby's name. We don't get a scene of Shikamaru and the baby, making the connection to the Akatsuki suppression arc and the theme of protecting the king. You see, even when you don't take the number of fights Kurenai had into account, which are definitely important in a battle shonen because character development in battle shonen is mostly done through fights, we still get a lot of missed opportunities just around her pregnancy, which was the main thing she went through in Naruto Shippuden. And because of that, Kurenai as a character doesn't have an arc whatsoever. She's just used as a thematic point in the Akatsuki suppression arc, and then she is dropped, even though she could have been used as a thematic point later on as well after she gives birth, but that just doesn't happen. And then obviously she doesn't get anything in the war because she's not in the war. Imagine how much more interesting, gut-wrenching, and emotional it could have been if Kurenai had to leave her child behind to go fight in the war to protect her. That could have been very impactful, especially if Kurenai ended up fighting against Edo Tensei Asuma in the war. You know, instead of giving that fight to Inoshika Cho, who had nothing to develop from the fight against Asuma, their former sensei who had already told him his last words. Yeah, I mean, I guess Choji goes through some development in that fight, which is kind of forced. Oh, Choji's too gentle. He has to learn how to be a little more rough. It's not a great character arc for Choji, and I could make a video about that later. But imagine if Kurenai was the one fighting against Edo Asuma after Mirai was already born. The dynamics of that fight could have been so much more interesting, and the dialogue between Kurenai and Asuma could be extremely emotional, especially if we see her giving birth to Mirai. Imagine how much harder it would hit when Mirai looks at the picture of her dad Asuma in the final chapter if that fight had actually happened. And yeah, when I make videos like this talking about how characters were kind of wasted, especially in Naruto Shippuden, a lot of people say that, oh yes, did you want every single character in Naruto to have development equal to the main character? And no, obviously not. I'm not saying Kurenai should have been the main character of the series for a while, but Kishimoto, when he wanted to, was great at balancing development of several different characters at the same time. Actually, two of the best arcs in the Naruto series were arcs where several characters had deep character development, many times happening simultaneously. And these arcs are obviously the Chunin exams and the Sasuke retrieval arc, where you have a massive ensemble of characters. And Kishimoto somehow managed to find something for pretty much every single one of them, with a few exceptions. And it's not like something shallow or anything like that, it's actual character development, some solid development to those characters. So it could have definitely been done to Kurenai as well in Naruto Shippuden, especially if she went to the war. Watch this other video right here for more cool Naruto content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely ring notifications if you haven't. Those things take 5 seconds, so please help me out there. And thank you so much for watching.